The topic of today's talk is why modern dating sucks, and specifically why both men and women cheat, but not for the reasons you think. Here's a question that would have been absurd to ask 50 years ago. Why does everyone seem incapable of staying faithful in relationships? Back then, cheating was the exception, not the rule. Today, it's so common that we've normalized it with terms like situationships, open relationships, and it's complicated. But here's what's really happening. Modern dating doesn't just suck, it's fundamentally broken. And I'm not talking about the surface level complaints you hear everywhere. I'm not talking about dating apps being shallow or people having commitment issues. Those are symptoms, not the disease. The disease is that we're trying to apply 1950s relationship models to a 2025 sexual marketplace, and it's creating a disaster for both men and women. You'll hear people blame moral decline. People just don't have values anymore. Others point fingers at feminism or toxic masculinity. It's because women are too independent now, or men are just dogs who can't control themselves. But both sides are missing the fundamental truth that's staring them in the face. The reality is that men and women cheat for completely different reasons, driven by completely different biological and psychological mechanisms. And until you understand these differences, really understand them at a deep level, you'll keep getting blindsided, heartbroken, and confused about why your relationships keep failing. Most people think cheating is about character flaws or moral failings. They think it's about finding someone who's loyal or committed. But that's like thinking car accidents are about finding drivers who don't want to crash. It completely misses the systemic factors that create the conditions for these outcomes. Let me paint you a picture of what modern dating actually looks like. You've got dating apps that literally gamify human connection, turning potential partners into trading cards you swipe through while sitting on the toilet. You've got social media constantly showing you what you're missing out on. The grass is always greener. The perfect person is always one swipe away. You've got economic independence that's removed the survival incentives that used to keep couples together through rough patches. And then we act surprised when people can't stay committed. But here's where it gets interesting, and this is what most people don't understand. The cheating epidemic isn't random. It's not because people today are inherently worse than previous generations. It's because the modern dating environment has created perfect conditions for triggering specific biological and psychological drives that used to be kept in check by social structures, economic necessity, and limited options. Men cheat for fundamentally different reasons than women. And I don't mean men are visual, women are emotional. That's kindergarten-level analysis. I'm talking about deep evolutionary programming that most people are completely unaware of. Programming that's being amplified by modern technology and social changes in ways that are creating chaos in the dating market. When a man cheats, he's typically not looking to replace his current partner. When a woman cheats, she often is. When a man has an affair, he can compartmentalize it completely from his primary relationship. When a woman has an affair, it's usually because something fundamental has shifted in how she views her current partner. These aren't moral judgments. They're observable patterns that make perfect sense when you understand the underlying psychology. But because we don't talk about these differences honestly, people keep getting caught off guard by predictable behavior. I've spent years studying relationship dynamics, working with clients who've been through every imaginable dating scenario, and observing patterns that keep repeating themselves across different demographics, age groups, and cultural backgrounds. And what I've discovered is that the people who successfully navigate modern dating aren't the ones who follow conventional wisdom about finding the right person or just being yourself. They're the ones who understand the game that's actually being played, not the game they wish was being played. Because here's the uncomfortable truth that nobody wants to admit. Modern dating is not about finding your soulmate and living happily ever after. It's about managing competing biological drives, social pressures, and unlimited options in an environment that's designed to keep you perpetually dissatisfied. The people who thrive in this environment are the ones who understand that male cheating operates like a man who loves his favorite restaurant, but still orders takeout from other places. And female cheating operates like a woman who's house hunting while still living in her current home, always evaluating whether she can do better. Both behaviors make perfect sense when you understand the underlying psychology. Both are predictable responses to modern dating conditions. And both can be navigated successfully if you understand what you're actually dealing with. But first, you need to stop believing the fairy tales about how relationships are supposed to work and start understanding how they actually work in the real world in 2025 with dating apps and social media and economic independence and unlimited options. The reality is that men and women cheat for completely different reasons. And until you understand these differences, you'll keep getting burned by the same patterns over and over again. You'll keep wondering why your loyal, committed partner suddenly became distant. You'll keep being shocked when someone you trusted completely betrays that trust. But it doesn't have to be this way. Understanding the real dynamics at play doesn't make you cynical. It makes you informed. It doesn't make you paranoid. It makes you strategic. And it doesn't make you give up on love. It makes you approach it with realistic expectations and effective strategies. So let's dive deep into what's really happening in modern dating, starting with how men approach cheating and why their behavior often seems completely irrational to women who are trying to understand it through a female lens. But before we get into the psychology of male and female cheating, I need to warn you about something. What I'm about to reveal in the next part of this series is going to completely change how you view every relationship you've ever been in. I'm talking about the hidden biological programming that drives infidelity. It's programming that's so deeply embedded in our psychology that most people are completely unaware it exists. And here's the disturbing part. Once you understand these patterns, you'll start seeing them everywhere. You'll recognize the early warning signs that someone is about to cheat months before it happens. You'll understand why that perfect relationship suddenly fell apart. You'll realize why your ex did what they did and why your current partner might be more vulnerable than you think. Some of you won't want to hear this. Some of you will think I'm being too harsh, too cynical. But the people who stick around for this complete breakdown, the ones who are brave enough to face the uncomfortable truth about modern dating, they're the ones who will never get blindsided again. In the next episode, I'm going to reveal the 3 biological triggers that make even the most loyal men vulnerable to cheating, and the 1 female behavior that activates these triggers without women even realizing it. I'm also going to expose the psychological process that happens in a woman's mind before she cheats. It's a 6-stage progression that's so predictable you can see it coming from miles away if you know what to look for. So make sure you're subscribed and hit that notification bell, because this is information that could save your relationship. Or at the very least, it'll save you from wasting years of your life on someone who was never going to stay committed in the first place. Trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next.
When most people think about male cheating, they assume it's about dissatisfaction with the current relationship. He must not love her anymore. She must not be meeting his needs. He's looking for something better. But this fundamentally misunderstands how male psychology works. Male cheating is like a man who loves his favorite restaurant. Let's call it Romano's. He goes there every week. He knows the staff. He has his regular table. He genuinely enjoys the experience. The food is great. The service is excellent. He has 0 complaints. But sometimes, on his way home from work, he'll still order Chinese takeout. Not because there's anything wrong with Romano's, not because he's planning to stop going to Romano's, simply because he wanted Chinese food that night. This is the key insight that most people miss. For men, sexual variety and emotional commitment operate in completely separate psychological compartments. A man can be deeply in love with his partner, completely satisfied with his relationship, and still feel a biological drive for sexual novelty that has absolutely nothing to do with his feelings about his primary partner. This compartmentalization ability is rooted in evolutionary psychology. Throughout human history, men who successfully spread their genes across multiple partners had reproductive advantages. This doesn't mean all men will cheat. It means all men have to manage this biological programming actively, and some are better at it than others. What makes this particularly relevant in modern dating is that we've created an environment that constantly triggers these drives. Dating apps function as sexual marketplaces, where men can browse infinite options. Social media provides constant exposure to attractive alternatives. Professional networking creates opportunities for emotional and physical connections. We've removed most of the social and economic barriers that used to make cheating difficult or costly. The result? Men who might have been faithful in 1950, not because they were more moral, but because they had limited opportunities and severe social consequences, now find themselves in situations where infidelity is easy, private, and socially normalized. Here's what's particularly important to understand. When a man cheats, he's typically not looking to replace his current partner. He's looking to satisfy a specific biological drive for variety while maintaining his primary relationship. This is why men can have affairs and genuinely believe they're not doing anything wrong, or why they can compartmentalize their behavior so completely that their partners have no idea anything is happening. This isn't a moral defense of male infidelity. It's a psychological explanation of how it actually works. Understanding this helps women recognize the warning signs and helps men recognize their own vulnerabilities before they act on them.
Female cheating operates on a completely different psychological framework. And this is where most people get confused, because they try to apply male psychology to female behavior. Female cheating is like a woman who's house hunting while still living in her current home. She's not randomly looking at houses for entertainment. She's not browsing real estate listings because she's bored. She's house hunting because something about her current living situation has become insufficient, and she's actively evaluating whether she can do better. When a woman cheats, she's typically engaging in what psychologists call mate-switching behavior. She's not just seeking variety, she's conducting a comparison evaluation. She's asking herself, is this new person better than my current partner in ways that matter to me? This is driven by hypergamy, the biological tendency to seek partners who are higher in status, resources, or genetic quality. From an evolutionary perspective, women who were able to upgrade to better partners when opportunities arose were more likely to have successful offspring. This programming is still there, even in modern relationships. But here's the crucial difference from male cheating. When a woman cheats, she's usually emotionally checking out of her current relationship. She's not compartmentalizing the way men do. She's not thinking, this has nothing to do with my relationship. She's thinking, maybe I made the wrong choice. This is why female cheating is often preceded by relationship problems that the male partner didn't even notice. The woman has been evaluating her current situation, finding it lacking, and starting to explore alternatives. By the time she actually cheats, she's already mentally halfway out the door. The house hunting metaphor explains this perfectly. When a woman starts seriously looking at other houses, it's because she's identified specific problems with her current home. Maybe it's too small, maybe it's in the wrong neighborhood, maybe it needs too much work. She's not going to upgrade unless she finds something meaningfully better. But once she starts looking, she's already dissatisfied with what she has. Female cheating is almost always hypergamous. Women typically cheat on men who are more successful, more attractive, of higher status, or more emotionally engaging than their current partner. It's extremely rare for a woman to cheat down, because that would defeat the entire psychological purpose of the behavior. This is why the affair partner often seems like such an obvious upgrade to outside observers. The woman isn't just seeking variety, she's seeking improvement. She's not just looking for different, she's looking for better. And here's where modern dating makes this infinitely more complicated. Social media constantly exposes women to men who appear to be upgrades.
Dating apps create a marketplace where women can easily evaluate their options. Economic independence means women don't need to stay with partners for survival. The barriers that used to prevent mate switching have been completely removed. Plus, delayed marriage means women are making relationship decisions with much more life experience and much higher standards. A woman who's 30 and financially independent has very different evaluation criteria than a woman who's 20 and dependent on her partner for security. So what does all this mean for you? Let's recap what we've uncovered about the real dynamics driving the modern dating disaster. Men cheat like diners who love their favorite restaurant but still order takeout. They're seeking variety without replacing their primary relationship. Women cheat like house hunters who've identified problems with their current home and are actively evaluating upgrades. Both behaviors make perfect evolutionary sense, but modern dating has removed all the barriers that used to keep these drives in check. The key insight here is that these aren't moral failings. They're predictable responses to biological programming in an environment of unlimited options. Understanding this doesn't make you cynical. It makes you strategic. Here's how to use this information to navigate modern dating successfully. For men, stop pretending the drive for sexual variety doesn't exist. Acknowledge it, understand it, and make conscious choices about how to handle it. Channel that energy into your relationship through roleplay, fantasy, or honest communication with your partner about attraction. The men who cheat are usually the ones who pretend they're above these drives until an opportunity overwhelms their willpower. For women, understand that hypergamy is a biological drive that doesn't disappear when you're in a relationship. You will continue to evaluate your partner against other options. That's normal. The question is whether you'll use that evaluation to appreciate what you have or to justify looking for upgrades. Before you start house hunting, ask yourself, are you looking because your current situation is genuinely insufficient or because social media is making you think you're missing out? For both sexes, learn to recognize the red flags. A man who has unlimited options but no accountability structure is a cheating risk. A woman who's constantly comparing her relationship to others on social media is a flight risk. These aren't character judgments, they're pattern recognition. The people who succeed in modern dating are the ones who work with these biological realities instead of fighting against them. They choose partners who understand these dynamics. They create relationship structures that account for these drives. They communicate honestly about attraction and temptation instead of pretending these things don't exist.
This isn't about becoming paranoid or giving up on love. It's about playing the game that's being played instead of the game you wish was being played. Modern dating sucks because we're using 1950s relationship models in a 2025 sexual marketplace. The old rules don't work anymore. Pretending they do is setting yourself up for disappointment and heartbreak. But here's the thing. Once you understand the real dynamics, you can make informed decisions. You can choose partners strategically. You can set up relationships that account for these biological drives. You can stop being blindsided by predictable behavior. The restaurant metaphor and the house hunting metaphor aren't just clever analogies. They're practical frameworks for understanding what's happening in your relationships. When your male partner seems distant, ask yourself, is he ordering takeout or is there something deeper going on? When your female partner seems critical, ask yourself, is she house hunting or is she just having a bad day? Understanding these patterns doesn't guarantee relationship success, but it gives you the tools to navigate modern dating with realistic expectations and effective strategies. Modern dating doesn't have to be a disaster if you understand what you're actually dealing with.
The chaos isn't random. It's predictable responses to biological drives in an environment designed to trigger them constantly. Men will be tempted by variety. Women will evaluate upgrades. Both sexes will struggle with unlimited options and FOMO. These aren't bugs in the system. They're features of human psychology that we need to account for instead of pretending they don't exist. The people who thrive in modern dating are the ones who understand these dynamics and make strategic choices based on reality, not fantasy. They're the ones who work with biology instead of fighting against it. So here's my question for you. Does this match your experience with modern dating? Have you noticed these patterns in your own relationships or in the people around you? Are you seeing the restaurant behavior in men and the house hunting behavior in women? Drop a comment below and let me know what you've observed. I read every comment and often respond personally, especially to thoughtful observations about relationship dynamics. And if you found value in this breakdown of what's really happening in modern dating, please consider subscribing to the channel. This is exactly the kind of honest, research-based content that helps people navigate modern relationships successfully, and your subscription helps me continue creating these deep dive analyses. Thanks for watching, and remember, understanding the game doesn't make you a player, it makes you informed. And in modern dating, information is everything.